Trauma and violence. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration addresses the impact of trauma on individuals, families, and communities as a behavioral health concern that requires a healing and recovery process. What is trauma? SAMHSA describes individual trauma as an event or circumstance resulting in physical harm, emotional harm, and or life-threatening harm. The event or circumstance has lasting adverse effects on the individual's mental health, physical health, emotional health, social well-being, and or spiritual well-being. Who is affected by trauma? Trauma has no boundaries regarding age, gender, socioeconomic status, race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation. Trauma is a common experience for adults and children in American communities, and it is especially common in the lives of people with mental and substance use disorders. For this reason, the need to address trauma is increasingly seen as an important part of effective behavioral health care and an integral part of the healing and recovery process. Effects of trauma. The effects of traumatic events place a heavy burden. That is my name. Thank you so much.
You enjoy?
May I have Tabasco, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, all right. The effects of traumatic events place a heavy burden on individuals. Thank you.
You're welcome.
On individuals, families, and communities. Although many people who experience a traumatic event will go on with their lives without lasting negative effects, others will have difficulties and experience a traumatic stress reaction. How someone responds to a traumatic experience is personal. If there is a strong support system in place, little or no prior traumatic experiences, and if the individual has many resilient qualities, it may not affect his or her mental health. Research has shown that traumatic experiences are associated with both behavioral health and chronic physical health conditions, especially those traumatic events that occur during childhood. Substance use, mental health conditions, and other risky behaviors have been linked with traumatic experiences. Because these behavioral health concerns can present challenges in relationships, careers, and other aspects of life, it is important to understand the nature and impact of trauma and to explore healing. Alternatives to seclusion and restraint. Pardon me. Alternatives to seclusion and restraint. Seclusion and restraint were once perceived as therapeutic practices in the treatment of people with mental and or substance use disorders. Today, these methods are viewed as traumatizing practices and are only to be used as a last resort when less restrictive measures have failed and safety is at severe risk. Seclusion is defined as the involuntary, solitary confinement of an individual. Restraint refers to any method, physical or mechanical device, or material or equipment that immobilizes or reduces an individual's ability to freely move his or her arms, legs, body, or head. A drug or medication also might be used to restrict behavior or freedom of movement. Studies have shown that the use of seclusion and restraint can result in psychological harm, physical injuries, and death to both the people subjected to and the staff applying these techniques. Injury rates to staff in mental health settings that use seclusion and restraint have been found to be higher than injuries sustained by workers in high-risk industries. Restraints can be harmful and often re-traumatizing for people, especially those who have trauma histories. Beyond the physical risks of injury and death, it has been found that people who experience seclusion and restraint remain in care longer and are more likely to be readmitted for care. Now you've got 4 trauma responses. You've got fight. The goal of the fight is self-preservation and protection from pain through conflict. A fight response may feel like a rush of adrenaline, a desire to defend ourselves and feel empowered at all costs, picking fights or yelling at or controlling others. To an observer, it may look like an explosive temper, angry and aggressive outbursts, bullying. It may be mislabeled as conduct disorder in children or narcissism in adults. Now the flight. The intent of flight is protection from pain through escape. A flight response can make it difficult to slow down and rest. It may feel like you're constantly rushing, worrying, panicking, or micromanaging. Someone experiencing this response might look like a workaholic, overachiever, perfectionist. They may also physically leave a space when they feel threatened and hide in a bathroom or car, or leave social situations by ghosting people or avoiding difficult conversations. Then there's freeze. Freeze types attempt to self-preserve through disassociation. When we disassociate, it can have the effect of spacing out, feeling detached from the world around us, derealization, or from ourselves, depersonalization. A freeze response can be characterized by feeling immobilized by stress, self-isolation, struggling to make or act on decisions, passivity, feeling frozen in a low-risk state, making it frightening to step outside of our routine or set new goals. And you've got fawn. Fawning is an attempt at self-preservation and safety through placation. This might look like people-pleasing, flattering others to avoid conflict, difficulty saying no, feeling afraid to share what we think or feel, concern with how others perceive us, anticipating others' needs or staying their interests or patterns to fit in with or be useful to them. The belief behind the fawn response is, if I can appease this person, I can be safe from conflict or pain. So, let's ask, which trauma response best describes you? What characteristics of the trauma response you identified applies to you? Give an example of traumatic event you have experienced and add to use your identified trauma response. Trauma and violence goes hand in hand. I don't know. Good day.